Hey guys, what's up? So, in my Christmas holiday countdown videos of Christmas movies, today we're going to be talking about the Santa Claus. So, this is probably one of the more iconic Christmas films, other than like the oldies like It's a Wonderful Life and Christmas Story, which to be honest, I'm not a big fan of those films, so I'm probably not going to do them. That's why. But this is one of the more iconic films, especially of like the early 2000s, late 90s babies type thing. Now, in my opinion, this is one of my favorite, just family friendly holiday films. And there's a good reason for that. One, Tim Allen doing his thing. It works well. I don't know why Tim Allen's personality works really well in Christmas films. It just does. But actually, I think it's I think it's because it's how well fleshed out the plot is, which sounds hilarious. I bet you're like, "What?" Like this film, The Santa Claus? No, it's a really well fleshed out plot. You're talking about a guy, you have a business guy who like needs to learn what it's like to love the right things and have correct priorities. We've seen that to death. We've seen it a lot of times, but it works really well because you have this guy who is all of that, but then you have a kid who wants to earn his father's love. We've seen that. The kid is kind of also figuring out what it's like to be a part of a second family. You don't see that. You usually the guy who like learns to be better gets the woman back, but that's not what this is about at all. Do you know how brilliant that is? I think people like did not pay attention to how brilliant that actual concept is because it's freaking genius. And dealing with real world problems of like what it's like to be in a second family and what happens when you get divorced and what is that like for a child, what is that like for a family as a whole, and then the new stepfather's coming into play. Really good dynamic, and all the characters are pretty well fleshed out. I think the mom is probably the most boring of the characters, and even she had a pretty good part in that film. So you have that aspect, which is great. You never get to see it. It's awesome. Then you have like this whole concept that is weird. I think now we just think it's iconic. I bet you it had been done prior, but I don't know of the film. But this idea that like they accidentally like kill Santa Claus, for lack of a better phrase, and then he like becomes Santa Claus. That's weird. And the way they did it was like very like almost like grounded in reality of like Santa Claus falling off the roof, and you become the Santa Claus to replace it. And like who like and that's a really good thing. We've seen it in the past of like opposites and things like that really working well, create good comedy. Yeah, it's hilarious. This guy who's a super business guy becoming Santa Claus. That's funny because we've seen that kind of dynamic work, but it actually is really funny here. It works really well. And Tim Allen, for honestly, let's like give him credit, really works as Santa Claus, which is weird. Not the first guy I would ever choose to be like a Santa Claus. So that's great. Also, it being the Santa Claus and it's like clause, like a legal thing, business related, it's super great, and that's what it's called. That's what the franchise is called, and it's interesting because they add those elements that are a little bit mature, like what it's like to have like a contract and things like that. I love that. Those are great. I think people think that a movie has to just have only solely mature comedy like Zootopia or something like that for it to be good. Now we're just like, oh, it's good because the kids will like it because it's pretty colors and the parents will like it because they actually get the humor. Or you have to balance that. No, you can have a solely family film. You could have a solely kid film. The reason why I wanted to give it from a child perspective or what I remember from it, and I've seen it a few times since then, and I really like it. I watch it a good amount, but like not all the time. I didn't just watch it and do it. I went with like my old nostalgia feeling. That comedy worked for me. I was a kid. I loved that comedy. Do you guys remember that scene with like, I think it's in the first one. I think it's in the first one. If it's in the second one, I apologize. But I think it's in the first one with like the ninja, like Secret Service elves, elves with attitude, EWA or something like that. Something like that. That's great. I love that. I thought that was funny. I thought that was cool. I was as aspirational. I was like, that's cool for a kid. Like you can do that. I don't know. Critics are way too hard on stuff like that. I don't even know if this film was rated poorly or not. I haven't checked Rotten Tomatoes on any of these films I'm reviewing. But so there's that. Then you kind of get into the dynamic of like once he actually becomes Santa Claus, what it's like for someone who was just like a person to become Santa Claus. That's a cool thing. We've seen it in the past, but it was a really interesting way of framing like the idea of pushing someone into being something that they're not, but them rising to the occasion and finding out that it's actually something they are. Like we've seen that, but using that in like the holiday perspective, like with Santa Claus as the career, is really cool, really smart, really well done. And then I think one, the elves have very strong characters. The girl is this like his nurturing, almost mother type, even though she's like a child, but she's not. And you have like I think his name's Bernard, but I may be incorrect. The leader one who's like actually really on edge, but is kind of a softie at heart. I loved him. Then you have like the nerdier one who's like trying to figure out like, we need to like really, be Christmas, and like the elves have such good dynamics. And that's really cool, and I think it helps him grow. That's the cool thing. Pretty much every character helps Tim Allen's character grow. And then once he grows, he can feed it back into his family dynamic of being divorced, his wife getting married to someone he didn't like before, and figuring out what it's like to be a human being, what it's like to like genuinely empathize with other individuals. I'm sorry, but it's very mature themes. It's really great. I think we totally underestimate it. And then with his dynamic with his child, which I saved kind of for last because it's probably the most important part of the film. One, Charlie was really cute. He was really adorable as a kid. That just like, you just always love it. But I think their dynamic is great because I don't think like Charlie as a child actor like blew my mind as a child actor, but their relationship was really believable. Like in the beginning, it's like he cared, but like he was unable emotionally to give his child what he needed. That's very relatable. I'm not even saying like from my experience, like as a child, like a lot of children experience that. It's very believable as opposed to like, oh, your kid bats an eye and you just like automatically know what to do. Because like your kid, no, some people are just like emotionally crippled. It's very easy to become emotionally crippled in this world, and they do that really well. And his son's like innocent, naive, optimistic, like love of Christmas, the way a child would, like really impacts his father and keeps his father into this craft being Santa Claus that he would normally not have done. And it really grounds him, and it teaches him and then eventually he learns how to become a better father by becoming the best Santa. And it's just great. I mean, I'm sorry, if that doesn't just sound amazing to you, I'm sorry, but there's like 17,000 layers in this film, and it's great. But in the end, it's just a cute film. Like you enjoy it. You're smiling the whole time. It's not like you're laughing really hard, but you don't have to laugh at every film that's like lighthearted. It's just a film that is whimsically makes you happy, but deep down inside makes you think, and it makes you like nod your head and makes you feel things and feel there's resonance there, and it's great. So definitely recommend watching that. I mean, it's a great film. I hope you guys have seen it. I don't know if I'll do the other films, so I'll just say I think the second one was really great, but not nearly as good as the first one. It was way more thin of a film. I wouldn't say it's a good film, but I thought it pushed the story forward, and I thought it was well done. The actors really went for their characters, like the principal, and I think like it was good. It was a little, the plot was a little thin. It was a little rushed at the end, so it wasn't a good film, but it was an okay sequel. The third one was not a good film, which is interesting because I think his name is Martin Short, the guy from like Three Amigos. He's like an amazing comedian. He's a really talented comedic actor, and he did awesome as Jack Frost. And it was just like a really thin film. Even like the whole concept of Jack Frost taking over like North Pole and making it commercialized was funny, but like and great and amazing. But the film itself was really eh. And so yeah, I think the first one's just like a really solid classic. I would definitely consider it a classic. So guys, on that note, that's another Christmas film down, and we're doing the countdown to Christmas, and arguably my favorite Christmas film. I'm not ranking these, by the way, but I'll try to save one of my favorite ones for last. We'll do that. All right, guys. On that note, I'll see you in the next one.